Welcome, everyone, to episode 5 of Just Listen. I'm Peter Garino. Today's day is June 8th, 2026. A pretty quiet week this week. I would consider it a week for news wise. Nothing really big stood out to me that I really wanted to dive into too much. Um, but the exception of graduations are starting to happen right now. And I want to congratulate all the graduates that are coming into the world these days, whether the high school students going into the workforce or going into college further in their education career, or college graduates coming into the world. Congratulations on your achievements. Best of luck to you in the future. With saying all that, the kids that are coming out of the school today are coming into a world that is uncertain for them. There's a lot of uncertainties when it comes to financials, housing. Could it be food issues? Natural resource issues. So we need, as adults that are already out in the world, who want to blame kids or say kids are lazy these days, let's take a look back at what they were growing up to and what they are being thrown into. Kids are being thrown into a market where rent is not affordable for them. Even come out of college, unless they're getting a six-figure job, rent is very expensive. Many of them probably will still have to live at home with their parents or who their guardians are, or they'll have to get multiple roommates just to be able to survive a place to live. So let's take a look back at what they're being thrown into, and let's give a little compassion and a little bit empathy and guidance. Hopefully, they will come up and be productive members of society instead of just casting blame and saying they're lazy. It's not their fault. Let's help them out as best we can. It's not saying that they don't need to put any effort in. The second point where I want to talk about this is let's look at how they were raised. Kids coming out of school today are different than when I graduated school. I graduated school in 2005. Computers were in school. Cell phones were starting to become more and more a thing. Smartphones weren't really a thing. The smartest phone I think we had at that time was Blackberries. Um, Smartphones, tablets, everything's at the ease of the fingers now. They weren't raised where they actually had to retain information like a lot of us did in school, due to the fact that the information's right at their fingertips. And as much as we need to, give the kids coming in the world today empathy and compassion, but doesn't absolve them to not to learn and to adapt to what their environment is, applies to us as well. World is changing. The world is not what it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 1 year ago. It is a completely different world. Um, so everybody needs to adapt and welcome a new generation into the world. The boomer generation is working its way out for obvious reasons. We don't know how that's going to happen. I think the world might be a better place. It's going to get hard for a little bit. I think it will. I think the boomer generation really set us up for failure. They set themselves up so they didn't have to worry. That boomer generation fed off of what many would consider the greatest generation, the ones who fought in World War II, father who would work and the mother would stay home, and they would afford that in house more and more. And now we're in a day and age where the kids have to be more into the workforce now just to make ends meet for the family or for themselves. So let's look at what's going on in the world and let's adapt. And let's dive into the weekly topic. Artificial intelligence. Let's go see what Wikipedia or Gemini, ironically, has to say what the definition of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a branch of computer science focused on building computer systems capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. These tasks include learning, reasoning, problem solving, understanding language, and making decisions. Oh. Instead of following a rigid, pre-written set of rules, AI systems process vast amounts of data using algorithms to identify hidden patterns. Through this process, they learn to make predictions, generate new content, and take independent actions. So we got different types of AI. You got machine learning systems learn and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed for every scenario. You have generative AI algorithms that produce entirely new content such as text, images, or audio, based on the prompts they receive. And another one we got is natural language processing, NLP, technology that enables computers to read, interpret, and generate human language. That's a lot. That's a lot for all of us, and especially the ones, the people who are older, don't understand it, and they're probably more scared of it. Should we be scared of AI? No. Should we be scared of what's being put into it? Possibly. AI is nothing more than what's put into it, and then it figures itself in there. So, are we like in an AI revolution now? Yeah, about 100 years ago, it was the Industrial Revolution. I think we are in the artificial intelligence revolution, where this is going to change a major way of a lot of businesses are run, productivity is produced, and everyday life and scenarios. I myself use artificial intelligence multiple times a day. So I work at a restaurant, but a lot of like projects I do, Chat GPT. I need a new sign made. I go in there, I put in some information that what I want, it pops up. It actually does a pretty good job. I'm not even gonna lie. So we sit here at the cusp of a new age, and what do we ask ourselves? Is this what we want? And I don't think that's the right question of like, this is what we want, because I believe it's here to stay. I don't believe it's going anywhere. Its fingers are too far into it right now. A couple of years ago, you never heard about AI doing all these tasks every day. Now it's just like an everyday thing. Siri has a new updated artificial intelligence. Alexa has a new artificial intelligence system. All this does, and I think we need to be on top of this as a civilization, a community, nation, wherever level you want to be at with it. But we need to be on top of this, and we also need to be understanding of what it is and what it's doing to our community and to our society. As I mentioned earlier, artificial intelligence is nothing more than what we as humans put into that. So we need to be more of a control of what information and who puts stuff into that. You just don't want somebody randomly throwing stuff in there. How civilizations work for all mankind. You only really hear the stories of the victors. You really don't hear the stories much of the losers of stuff. So let's be on the winning side of this. Let's make sure we have our ducks in a row and that we have, as a society, more control. You don't want a handful of people making these decisions and be like, oh, this is what we want to put into it. You need to have more of an understanding, a communicative understanding of what this is. The University of New Hampshire survey team did a study this year about 1,200 New Hampshire residents, asking about effect on artificial intelligence over the next 10 years and how on certain aspects of it. I got this information from the Valley News from a survey that was taken October of last year and May of this year, is that more and more people have a negative feeling about AI in the next decade, but more and more people are using artificial intelligence in their day-to-day lives. And why are people afraid of artificial intelligence? Maybe they're not afraid. Maybe they're skeptical. They just don't want it because they feel like it's just taking too much. And you have every right to feel that way. I feel that way. I don't want AI doing every aspect of my life. Believe it or not, I like learning. This is another reason why I want to do this podcast. So it takes me time to go do some research, look into this stuff. And with artificial intelligence, you kind of lose that aspect of life. They got to learn as well. Because if something happens to this system, and we're not prepared for it, what then? And that goes for a lot of aspects of our lives. Heck, even power. If there was a massive power grid failure, what then? People would not know. People would not know what to do. People don't. People freak out. COVID-19 pandemic, when things shut down, people really didn't know what to do. People are like, so we need contingencies. We need to learn, and we can use artificial intelligence as a tool which is a fantastic tool, but let's not rely on it so heavily that it becomes our lives. The next big topic with this is that AI data centers. These things are, reportedly as big facilities that just take a lot of water and a lot of energy. And a lot of communities are starting to fight back against it. I haven't seen too much news on it from the state of Vermont yet, which I'm surprised. I know there was a town, the town did vote down the AI data center up that way, somewhere around that way. And New Hampshire has actually have a bipartisan approach on this with the state legislator to actually kind of ban or limit AI data centers coming into the Granite State. And I think this is something that needs to, be more transparent and why people are afraid of this. The increase of, energy consumption, water consumption, and which in turns will turn into typically higher rates of utilities for the local residents for a facility that really does not contribute to the local economy. Excuse me. I can't imagine that these AI data centers actually have a large or much of people actually working with them or in them. As obviously, it's artificial intelligence, a lot of it's self-mandated. You probably have some people just doing maintenance work, keeping computers, GPUs or whatever system they use, CPUs, optimal and conditioned and operational. So I think it's gonna be a minimal workforce within that area. So as of right now, at least from my perception, is that it's pretty much a net negative on the community to have these in our area. So does that mean that these centers won't get more efficient or better in the future? I think they will. I think everything that we've done as technology and industry have gotten more efficient and better as we progress. Let's not forget, this is such a new technology and a new way of life and new infrastructure that we just don't know every ins and outs of it yet. Let's say these people need to talk to us. They need to go to town hall meetings, go to state legislators, and we also need to do our research and listen and saying, okay, what's going on? Let's go and see where other AI data centers have been and what impacts of the community. Me personally, I'm curious on this. So this is something I probably will be diving into next week of looking at where is the closest AI data center and what is there positive or negative impacts on the community that will it make it worth it or will people not enjoy having it with us? Like I said, I think AI is here to stay. We need to be educated on it and get involved with it. It's here to stay. So I think as a civilization, we need to come together as a community and be like, how much do we want this to be dependent on? Because let's face it, 20 years ago, did you think that you would have a phone that you can do all your banking, all your finances, pay all your bills, go to school with this thing? You can do everything on your phone. None of us really thought that. And I bet you 20 years ago, many of you thought, no, we're not going to do that because I still want this. But here we are. Things have changed. And there's always been that pushback during what I think revolutions. Civilizations, it was like, no, we don't want that because we don't want to change our way of life, or that's just way too out there. Because as humans, we are afraid of the unknown. And this is why we need to get more involved on this. As AI is becoming more and more of a day-to-day life for everybody, whether it's at home, at work, even driving. You have the self-driving cars. I personally do not really want to deal with those. No, but when it comes to other aspects, like I said, I use ChatGPT. I use the new Alexa. They've actually been pretty decent. I don't use it for everyday tasks. I just ask it like, oh, hey, what do you recommend, or what's going on here? And look at that, and you, as a human, but you still got to make your own decisions. Where does this go from here? I don't know, and I don't think a lot of people know what this is going to. People can speculate. People can dream. Is this going to become like Terminator, iRobot? Will AI turn on us? I've heard reports of some AI that was self-contained, meaning that it's not connected to the internet, somehow wrote itself an algorithm to and actually jailbroke itself out of its computer and made its way to the internet. So it's definitely coming to a point right now where it's like, okay, we need to reel this in, but we need to have more control of it. This will get out of hand real quick, especially with the up and coming race for quantum computing. I'm not sure if the United States is working too hard on that right now. I know China is. China is spending a lot of money and a lot of infrastructure on quantum computing, where we'll make AI look like child's play. If China were to get quantum computing, that coupled with artificial intelligence, it's a very scary thing. As whoever comes over first will have the possibility to rule this entire world, because they can go through and jailbreak any system they want, whether you like it or not. So we need to be on top of this. We need to come as a society and be like, all right, we need to work on this so we're ahead of the game, but we're not controlled by it. We've seen those movies where artificial intelligence just takes over and they, either go to war and we're at war with robots. And could that be a thing? Like I said earlier, did we think 20 years ago that we're going to have our smartphones have the internet at our fingers? No, I didn't think so. I remember that 20 years ago, you had a paper text and you had to pay for, $1 million for ringtones on these little Nokia phones or the Motorola Razors. That was the big ones too. I didn't own a BlackBerry. So, but many of us have adapted to these phones. And now a lot of companies have adapted. We have apps now that we use for work. I have a bunch of apps that I use for my work on a day-to-day basis while I'm there. So AI is here to stay. Let's work together and let's communicate with each other about it. And let's make it better for ourselves and not for a few individuals that if you maybe just want to take over the world. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. What I want to say with that. Please, leave a comment in the comments below. And I appreciate you joining us on this beautiful day. If you're enjoying this content, please do hit the subscribe and like buttons, and will help out kind of with algorithms, get to reach out to more people and help me get better at this. So I appreciate you all taking time of your day to come here and listen to me. Let's have a great day. Thank you so much.